So today what we're going to be getting started with is how to do some of your hand drawing. And to begin with, I measured out my wrist and it's about 2 inches across. So now I can go ahead and mark 2 inches on here. I wanted to make it just a little bit longer, so I'm going to go ahead and raise those up just a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I need to draw the palm of my hand. The palm of my hand, we have the height of it here. We're also going to have the width across. So if I go ahead and measure that on my hand, it is 3.5 by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take from the palm of my wrist. I'm going to go ahead and go up 3.5, and then across here it's going to be about 3 inches. Okay, so far this is about where most of you are at. And now we need to go ahead and start connecting. Then after this, we can go ahead and get started on drawing out your fingers and more details about that. So as I'm drawing, it's important that I keep my hand close to where I'm drawing so I can look at it quite a bit. I see a lot of people putting their hand on top of their project. That's not going to really work. It's better if you keep your hand over here so that you can look at it and then see if you're doing things correctly. Next, we're going to go ahead and start drawing your thumb and some of the other things. To begin with your thumb, this is kind of a tricky one because if you'll notice, your thumb actually starts down, way down close to your wrist. If you start looking at where your thumb moves from and where your thumb is able to, where it's connected, it moves from back here. So your thumb starts down here by your wrist. A lot of times what I see is people starting their thumb up here and not making this part big enough. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start once again, look at your thumb as you have it out in front of you here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take it, starting it from my wrist area. Something else you'll notice is on each one of your fingers there are 3 different parts. There's 1, 2, and then a third. So on here we have 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 different parts. Now I said that on my thumb there's more of 1, 2, and then this down here is your third major part. So I'm going to go ahead and look for how those move on my paper, or I'm sorry, look how they move, and then make sure that I get those drawn on my paper. So I have that. I'm going to go ahead and draw my thumb over here. Now as I'm drawing my thumb, I do have quite a big, there's like a webbing down in here, so I'm going to do a nice curve in there. Good. Alright, so I have my thumb. I'm going to come back to that later and see if I think that looks correct, but I'm going to leave it the way it is right now. I'm going to get rid of the line, so I'm not needing that anymore. I'm thinking I need this a little further down in here, so I'm going to take that down a little bit further. Next, what we're going to do is go ahead and draw the index finger. So I have my thumb, now let's go ahead and draw the index finger. For that finger, I'm going to measure out real quickly. It's 2.5, slightly over 2.5, but really close. So I'm going to go ahead and take that on here and measure out 2.5. And that's as tall as it's going to go. Now what I do notice is that from my finger, I'll not use my ruler, I'm not measuring this, my finger, my index finger is connected, and I can take a pencil and almost touch, so way down here where my thumb is, all the way up to the top of my index finger, it touches the pencil. I see a lot of people that start their index finger over here, and then there's this bump of extra hand, and you don't need that. You're going to start your your index finger right in the same sort of line movement as your, there we go. Now, next thing about your hand is with your fingers, the base or the bottom down here is going to be a little bit thicker, kind of like a tree. If you're going to draw a tree, you draw the bottom of the tree a little bit thicker, and then you move up and they're a little bit skinnier. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw that. So I have my hand, and as it moves down towards this in here, you'll notice that this is webbed. There's a little bit of webbing in between here. It's not going to come down and make a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to make it a little thicker and kind of curve that just a little bit for your web. Next, I'm going to go ahead and draw my next finger, my middle finger, and this one is a little bit longer. It's 3 inches. So I'm going to take that and mark where my 3 inches is up here. Alright, and so it's taller. Coming back up. Up, up, up. Now I'm going to curve it around. Okay, and as I look at this, I think this got a little too straight, so I'm going to kind of curve this a little bit more. There we go. The different parts of my finger. Alright, so I have those two. Then what I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and the same thing would be done for your ring finger, noticing that this one is shorter, and then my pinky is even shorter than that. Measure out and make sure you are getting those things correct. But let's go ahead and move on to talking about some of the different details on things. So for your details, first of all, let's go ahead and talk about, before I did mention that there are 3 different parts to your hand. So there's a 1, a 2, and a 3. You need to kind of make sure that they look like there are 3 different parts to your hand instead of it being like a straight line right here, like a continuous line. We need to kind of have a little bit of bring it out. And on this one, see where I kind of brought this in just a little bit? I'm kind of showing this wrinkle just a tiny bit. I'm going to go ahead for my next one. This last one here. I'm going to make this a little bigger here. Okay. Now I can kind of erase. You can see where there's a little bit more movement to it. There's a little bit more separation. I don't want too much, I just want to kind of show that there's different parts. Now on here, some other things you can put in here are some of the wrinkles, especially on the, if you're on the inside. You don't want a wrinkle that goes straight across. Your wrinkles kind of have some movement back and forth. This one was from my original where I started. I want a little bit of a line in there, but not too much. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about the thumb. If this is my hand position, I have it straight out here. When I go to draw my thumbnail, I want you to notice how much of my thumbnail do you see. You actually, well, if you turn it in like this, it's just barely on the side. A mistake that I see a lot of people do is they put the thumb all the way across. They put a thumbnail right here. And what that appears is if you have taken your thumb and kind of like turned it really hard. You don't want that. So instead what you're going to do is you're going to take this and just draw a little bit of your thumbnail on the side there. That's your thumbnail. Let's go ahead and talk about some of your fingers over here. Now let's imagine on your hand, I'm going to take this and pretend that I have a fingernail. So I'm going to take this and pretend like I flip my finger around. So if I'm going to draw a fingernail on the side of this, you're not going to draw it straight across the end. So I'm pretending that I could flip my hand around. This is the inside of my hand. Now I flipped it over. But I'm just going to draw fingernail on here for example. I want you to notice on here there is skin and skin on both sides. People who draw a fingernail all the way across, that's going to kind of make your finger look very, very flat and not really work very well. So I'm going to take this and hand model. Take this. Right now I have kind of long fingernails. A lot of times I have them short, but today I'm going to take them up just a little bit. And that's my fingernail. Now notice I have one hand on the inside and one hand on the outside. I need to get rid of that fingernail. That does not belong on that hand. But just to show you, make sure that you have the fingernail drawn correctly, not across the entire inside. Okay, hopefully you have some helpful things to be able to help you out today.